Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Music Done. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good night, and above all else, that you are looking after yourselves and one another. Today, ladies and gentlemen, before I get into the topic of this episode, I want to welcome back to the channel Mr. Jim Bricker. How's it going, Jim?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for allowing me back after so many misadventures.
Pleasure that you're back. It's good to see you again. And Mr. Ken Cheshire. How's it going, Ken?
Going well. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for being back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with episode 4 of Is This a Masterpiece? Now, I have put together a list of 5 albums that anyone who is a fan of music or just a casual listener would look at this list and most probably think that these albums on this list are, in fact, a masterpiece. In episode 4, we're going to be taking a look at Fleetwood Mac and their classic album, Rumours. Now, Rumours is Fleetwood Mac's 11th release. It is the, excuse me, second release with the Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks lineup. It was released on February 4th, 1977, through Warner Brothers and Reprise Records. It was recorded between February and August of 1976, reaching number one in Canada, number one in the US, and number one in the UK. So, number one all across the board. It was recorded at Criteria Studios in Miami, the record plant, and in LA, excuse me, and the Zellerbach Auditorium in Berkeley.
Just
Okay.
up the road.
What was that? Sorry.
It's just up the road.
It's just up the road. There you
Kind of
go.
staggers the imagination that
There you
Fleetwood
go.
Mac once performed at the tiny Zellerbach.
There you go. Thank you for that. Now, this is the band's follow-up to their 1975 uh, subtitled release, otherwise known as the White Album. Um, I will pass the virtual mic over to my two cohorts. We're going to start with Ken, and each of us are going to give our opinion on this album as to whether or not it is indeed a masterpiece. So over to Ken.
Thank you. This is another one of those 70s albums that came out just before I graduated high school. And like Jim has joked in um, other videos that it was virtually assigned to everybody
Mhm.
my age and my generation. It was just a blockbuster. It was all over the place. Of course, we know that Fleetwood Mac took a hard turn with the previous album, adding Buckingham Nicks to it,
Yeah.
which, yeah, it's just amazing. Whereas I loved the album at the time, I don't go back to it very often now, and that's because I've just heard it so much. My favorite songs off the album are the ones that aren't played quite so much. So there's a little bit of repetition fatigue on this. I tend to go to the previous album when I'm, in that Fleetwood Mac mode, or even go with my bootleg copy of the Buckingham Nicks album, which I hold in very high esteem.
Mhm.
Uh, and which there's some flavors of that. I mean, especially Never Going Back Again, which is, virtually just Lindsey Buckingham by himself. Amazing guitar work.
Yeah.
Um, and it's very reminiscent of the work that he did before joining the band. It was huge. It was huge, and for good reason. I think probably um, my experience on social media over the last several years, especially the chain, seems to be continuing to grow in popularity. In that, some people just never really, that wasn't the song that people would think about when they think about this album. Now, on the other hand, um, which is the only album on this, only song on this album that they all contributed to. I don't think we hear Songbird from Christy McVie often enough.
Yeah.
It does, to me, that does break the mold. That is more in line with the pre-Buckingham Nicks Fleetwood Mac, which honestly, I love the early Fleetwood Mac stuff. I like that blues flavor and influence and all of that. Um, it was the go your own way, never going back again. Just pounding on the radio so much
Yeah.
that it's just like, here we go. Um, you know, um, Oh Daddy is another incredible Christine McVie. I really do like the way that McVie and Buckingham wrote together and worked together. Um, I thought they worked very well together. Several years ago, they did an album together. I'm not that familiar with it,
It's
but it's
fantastic.
one
I
that's,
have it.
yeah, it's one of those that I keep meaning to go and listen to that. I
Yeah.
mean, really listen to it. But I just forget. But is it as I wonder sometimes how much of the popularity after 50 years is nostalgia and how much of it is really the staying power of the album.
Mhm.
Because I can easily see someone of my generation who this album, just like we talked about with Hotel California, that came about, the same era, was just such a big part of our teen years.
Mhm.
But obviously, I think there's a lot of generations since then where it's much newer, and
Mhm.
it has struck a chord with them too. So, uh, big album, big props. Um, yeah, I could go track by track, but I think everyone's familiar with it enough that it's not necessary.
Yeah.
It stands on its own.
Hmm. Okay. Fair
Okay.
enough. Fair enough. Jim.
Definitely, this album got a bit of a juice in its backside due to skateboarding people with ocean spray cranberry drink, singing dreams at the top of their lungs. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, this album, it's interesting, Armando, that you picked these three. Hang on. I guess I don't have to sneeze. Maybe I do.
There you go. There you go. Anything could happen
Maybe.
on the episode, folks.
That's right.
Exactly. If you'd be so kind as to edit that out, that would be fine. Um,
No
I'll
way.
see what I can do.
well, thanks.
There
Thank
you
you, Armando, for being a friend. Ken, you're a nudge.
We're gonna
Um,
go.
we're gonna see if it comes out a
I
different
love you,
orifice. That's
Jim.
all. Yeah.
oh, thank you. Thank you, Ken. In
You were
any
saying.
case,
You were
I was
Okay.
saying.
saying it's
Back to the regularly
interesting.
scheduled program at hand. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Um, this album, among with two of the others that you picked, Hotel California and Asia, to me are kind of the epitome of classic, FM, AOR, rock of that edge of the late '70s. Um, I think I don't think many people would include Asia the way I do, but that's just them. Um, there's like Hotel California. There's no denying the quality that's in this album. There is not a naff track on here. I mean, we've talked about I Don't Want to Know a couple of times as the one that's kind of like meh, but even that it's fun, it's folky, it's catchy, it's different. I mean, it's a Stevie Nicks song, and it's certainly about 180 degrees from Dreams. And I think it's just kind of fun and sounds great on the record. It's a good, it's a good way to sort of cut up the album. Um, the whole thing is great. I agree with what Ken was saying. Tracks like Songbird. Never Going Back Again. You know, some of the deeper cuts really make this album have the staying power that it does. And that's why, again, there's 11 tracks on here. I think for many people, this album certainly is a masterpiece. Um, I think it's certainly the apex of the Fleetwood Mac catalog. Um, I'm going to reserve my passing of judgment on whether it's a masterpiece or not till we've all had a chance to go around the horn. But yeah, I mean, there's no denying what a fantastic album this is.
Okay, true enough. Fair. That's fair. Um, hmm, what to say about this album? Quite a bit. Um, this was recorded at a time when there were a lot of breakups going on in the band. You had two couples that were pretty much imploding in their personal lives. John McVie and Christine McVie, nay Christine Perfect, were breaking up, and Lindsey Buckingham and Stephanie Stevie Nicks were breaking up at the same time. So there was a lot of cross talking on this album.
And
Um,
cross other things, if you know what I mean. If you know what I mean.
exactly.
Nudge, nudge.
Ba-dum
Say no
bum.
more, say no more, say no more.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Mick Fleetwood and Stevie Nicks. And that happened as well during the making of this album.
Right.
So this album was born out of drama. And uh, from the song titles, I mean, Secondhand News, Never Going Back Again, Go Your Own Way, um, You Make Loving Fun, which Christine McVie wrote about the lighting uh, guy that they were working with on the crew that she was dating at the time. I don't want to know. Oh, daddy, Um, I do believe that this album is considered a rite of passage. When you look at a list of albums that that you're to give somebody in their teens, like in their mid-teens, Asia, Hotel California, um, say News of the World, and Rumours is a rite of passage album for any teen that wants to get into some serious melodic pop rock music, right? Um, I do believe that some of these songs do get overplayed on the radio. If I have to hear Don't Stop or Go Your Own Way again on K97 one more time, I'm going to give Birth in the Car again. I mean, it's that tedious at times. I do believe that some other songs should be given more attention to, like Songbird, which I do believe is one of the few songs that was recorded at the Zellerbach Auditorium in Berkeley live, which I do believe is a fantastic, majestic piece of work. Gold Dust Woman I've come to regard that as a classic. I was not really a fan of that song, even with the rest of the album, but I've it's I've given it more attention, and I do believe that it deserves more attention than what I've given it so far. Um, Never Going Back Again, I think, is a fantastic, intricate piece of work. I don't believe that Lindsey Buckingham gets enough credit as a guitarist. I really don't believe that. He is fan bloody effing tastic. And I think that he, you know, he deserves more credit than what he's been given thus far. Um, is this album a masterpiece? I will reserve my judgment until we go around the table. So, um, over to Ken for your opinion.
Yes,
Okay, good night, folks. Okay. You do believe it's a masterpiece. Okay.
I do. Like I said, it's not one that I would go to, but taking all the criteria into consideration, yeah, it is. To me, it is.
Okay. Jim.
As good as this album is, I'm going to say no. And that's, I
Ooh,
think, because of my own pernickettiness about, what sort of rises to the level of a masterpiece. It can be an utterly fantastic album and be a masterpiece. It can be an album that I absolutely detest and still be a masterpiece. I think the thing is, perhaps the term masterpiece gets thrown around maybe a bit too liberally,
way too much. Yeah.
and you
Okay.
really need to kind of, I jokingly said the other video about Hotel California that it's like, would I hang this in the Louvre? And to me that's kind of a snarky way to describe things, but that's kind of the level of seriousness with which I approach the question, which is like, it's got to be that freaking good. And there's just as much like Hotel California, there's something about Rumors, as good as it is, that isn't like transcendent. Um, but that's again just me.
Okay.
It's a great record, and everyone should listen to it at least once. But I don't think it's a masterpiece.
What would what would make it a masterpiece in your opinion?
I was thinking about that earlier before we started rolling here, and I was reminded of a term that Pat Metheny gave when he was talking about uh, bass player Esperanza Spalding. And he said
Yeah.
Esperanza has that X factor. There's just something above and beyond just the normal stuff that makes something special.
Okay.
And as many boxes as gets checked in Rumors, it just doesn't have that X factor to me, that transcendent factor. I honestly, not being a songwriter, not knowing what the mechanics of music are, much the way Ken does, it would be hard for me to say, oh, if only it had this or that or the other thing. Because it's like the line in Salieri, which Mozart says, okay, which notes would you have me remove? It's like I don't freaking know.
Okay. Okay. Almost like you know when you know, like you know when you hear it kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, but
So,
and that again, that just speaks to the subjectivity of this topic.
yeah. Sorry, guys, I had to take a sip of tea here. It's just tea. Uh, um, fair enough. No, that's a good assessment. That's a good assessment. Um,
Your question is a fair one. I wish I had some kind of cogent answer that said, "Oh, if only Rumors had this." And it's like, what the hell am I going to do in my life that has had the cultural impact that Rumors has had? I don't run in those circles.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And by the way, I am able to come up with good questions now and again, ladies and gentlemen, just so people have to understand this. I was shocked too. Anyways, um, I can always make Jim laugh. That's what I love about Jim. And Ken just sits there and chuckles.
I'm a cheap date.
There you go. There you go. You and me both. Now, my opinion of Rumors, do I think it's a masterpiece? No. No, I cannot say that it's a masterpiece. I have said that I do not care for I Don't Want to Know as a track. It's 3 minutes and 11 seconds of my life that I'll never get back if I listen to it. Um,
Oh, harsh.
I just, I, there was the story. There is, sorry, I should back up a bit. There is a classic albums episode on the making of Rumors. And the story is this. The original running order was, from what I understand, was side two was going to have The Chain, You Make Loving Fun, Silver Springs, Oh Daddy, and Gold Dust Woman. Okay. You look at side one, secondhand news, dreams never going back again, don't stop, go your own way, and songbird. Bam, 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 right down. Like killer, killer, killer tracks all the way down the line. Um, how can I put this? I don't want to know is the one major speed bump in the road on side two that just upsets it for me. Had they gone with the original idea of putting Silver Springs on the album instead of I Don't Want to Know, you would have had an amazing album from track one to track 11, you know? Um, that's one part of it. The other part for me is like Hotel California, this album is overplayed on the radio. And they focus on the hits. They focus on dreams. They focus on don't stop. They focus on go your own way. You make love and fun. They don't touch Songbird nearly enough as they should. They don't touch even Gold Dust Woman nearly as much as they should. Here in Canada, I don't know how it is in the US, but they focus on those particular songs, and you get the feeling like, here we go again. You know, it's just it's oversaturation, overplay. And that is what kills it for me. I would much rather hear Tusk as an album than listen to Rumors, you know. And because Tusk has that just a little bit about Tusk. When Tusk came out, Warner Brothers were disappointed because they wanted a Rumors too. And Lindsey Buckingham said, "No, I can't do that. I won't do that." And good on him for doing that. You know what I mean? I just think that as an artist, you need to grow and change and morph and just do different things. You know what I mean? If you want to hear Rumors, go back and listen to Rumors. You don't need me to make another Rumors. Do you know what I mean? Repetition is a deadly thing. I just think that with Rumors as an album, um, it's good. I mean, I would give this album as a starting point for people to listen to. If you want it, like as an entry point into Fleetwood Mac of this era of Fleetwood Mac, but I wouldn't say that it's a masterpiece, not in the slightest. So there was my $10 worth of information and opinion on Rumors. Um, there you go, guys.
So I
Thoughts?
have I have a thought. I have an observation. It
Okay.
would seem,
Yes.
Armando, that one of the criteria for you about something being a masterpiece is that it's not overplayed.
That and the fact that listening to an album, even though you hear it, you've heard it many times, the anticipation of the next song that's coming, that you want to hear what's coming up next. Do you know what I mean? Even though you've heard, say, take Asia, for example.
Okay.
You've heard, I got, I've
Pick on
got,
it. Go ahead.
you've heard the album,
Yep.
you've heard Black Cow and you've heard Asia, the track, so many times. But the fact that Black Cow is ending and Asia's going to come on and you're looking forward to it,
Mhm.
even though you've heard it, you know, umpteenth times, you still want to hear it. That is the factor that gets me to want to listen to it. That I would call a masterpiece.
Okay.
The anticipation of it.
The anticipation factor. Okay.
There you go. A real worded way of saying it, long-winded, but the anticipation of what's next is what would make a masterpiece for me. You know what I mean?
hmm
So thoughts, Ken?
I think I'm approaching it somewhat from a different angle than you two are.
Okay.
Um, I think Um, I think my opinion is, I don't mean for this to sound bad. I
But
think it's a little more, for the most part, objective.
okay.
Like I said, this is not the first Fleetwood Mac album I would go to listen to it. However, looking at the popularity, which means it resonates with a very large number of people. Um, I think the quality of the recording is top notch. Yeah,
Yes.
burnout, absolutely. But that's a personal feeling for me as opposed to whether it's, a masterpiece or not. Um, the painting of the on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, I think, is a masterpiece. I don't have the urge to, draw up pictures. I'd love to see it in person someday, sure, but I don't find myself pulling up pictures of it on the internet. Yet, it's still a masterpiece.
Okay.
And so, just like I said I said the same thing about Hotel California. Incredibly overplayed. I really, I enjoyed it back when it first came out before it was overplayed. I think the songwriting is top notch. I think it took um, what the Eagles had done to the next level that they were never able uh, to make happen again. But I don't have the urge to go listen to it yet. Taking in those other things into consideration, I think it is a masterpiece. Personally, eh.
Okay.
And so yeah, so in my mind, as we go through these things, I to me the masterpiece label has an overall um, aspect to it because otherwise we're just talking about whether we like an album or not,
Okay.
and why not? A lot of people think that uh, uh, the Ramones or Sex Pistols, those albums are absolute masterpieces, but I wouldn't listen to them if you gave them to me. As far as that's concerned.
It's all
However,
subjective.
however,
Hmm.
there are millions of people that absolutely would die on that hill.
No,
So,
go
but
on.
anyway, so I think I'm approaching it um, from a bit of a different angle than you two, and that's fine
Yeah.
because, like I said, I overplay. I agree right across the line. I and it's just a matter of individuality and taste. I cannot say that there's something missing the way Jim does, but then me and Jim see eye to eye on a lot of things, but not on everything. So that's
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Um, but um, but yeah, I mean, so in a way, we all agree. I'm just labeling it from another angle. And let's face it, radio, they're in it for the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
there is to it.
Yeah.
They are pandering to the masses,
I would agree.
which is why I haven't listened to commercial radio in probably 20 years. If I listen to radio, it's going to be satellite radio, which the channels are very specifically programmed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It's usually a channel like Deep Tracks or something like that
Yeah. Yeah.
that does play the album tracks.
Yeah. No,
But anyway,
I agree. Um, Here's a quick question.
yeah.
Do you think that with this album in particular, the the history of it or the folklore or the legend of this album outweighs the album itself.
May I?
Yeah.
You may.
No, I don't think so. I mean, last listen I had to this album, it was completely divorced of the drama and the divorces and the affairs and everything. I was just listening to it as a piece of music,
All
and
right.
I can appreciate it and love it as just the pieces of music that it is.
All
I
right.
tend to agree because back when it was released, since it was so huge when it was released, a lot of that information wasn't easily available
Well, exactly.
or even known. It wasn't until, yeah, before the internet age, but it wasn't until the MTV age that stuff like that you know, became apparent.
Yeah. Okay. No, okay. I would agree.
I think it's another example of what I've said before. I think it's an example of a perfect storm
Mm.
of the timing because I don't see how this album is any better than the previous album from the self-titled album. And I've always thoroughly enjoyed that one too.
Mm.
Um, I, 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 you know, I don't, I don't dig down quite deeply into the lyrics as you do, and that's fine because my brain as a musician tends to lean towards the
All right.
musical part of it. But I think because of the timing and whatnot, it's another perfect storm album for me as far as its success is concerned. If it had come out 2, 3 years later, it might have just done meh, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Um, at the same time I think has been much more friendly to Tusk because I think it underperformed when it was released
Yeah.
and even derided by a lot of people.
Yeah. Tusk, when it came out, just quickly, um, it sold overall, um, well, in the first few months, it sold 4 million copies,
Mhm.
whereas at the same time, like a year after Warner Brothers thought it was a failure at 4 million units sold because a year after the release of Rumors, it sold 10 million.
Mhm. Mhm.
And for an artist to be able to sell 10 million copies, let's use 10 million, um, two albums back to back, that is a rarity, right?
Yeah, that's almost unheard of.
It's an anomaly. So, um, yeah,
And I think it's especially impressive of Tusk's sales level, considering it was a double album.
yeah,
So the price point was higher.
yeah,
Yeah, we talked
But
about that.
then,
Yeah.
yeah,
but then at the same time, the studios were now looking at dollar signs
yeah,
ever since Frampton Comes Alive came out.
yeah,
Because before then, 500,000 was considered a massive success.
yeah,
Then Frampton Comes Alive comes out and blows the roof off of the mother. And record companies started saying, hey, we could make serious bucks out of this.
yeah,
And
Yep.
started pushing their
and
artists like crazy.
yeah, and let's not forget too, Bad Out of Hell at this
Yep.
point was just starting to get its legs around 78,
Yep.
in terms of the
Or
size
its wings.
or its wings. Smart ass. In order to, for its longevity. So yeah, it's all relative. But all right.
See, that's why I think we ought to do a unofficial part six,
We will.
because
We will.
it's just an epilogue for what constitutes a masterpiece.
We
Like
will.
what is that X factor? What is the thing, that puts Asia in that category for me, but doesn't for Hotel California and Rumors, which many people would argue are even better albums. So
We will. We will. We'll do that.
awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That brings us to the end of episode 4 of Is This a Masterpiece? Please put down in the comments below your opinion of Rumors. Do you believe that it's a masterpiece? Do you believe it's overplayed? Do you believe it's overblown? Do you believe it's hype? Or do you not believe the hype? Do you know what I mean? Like, not to quote Public Enemy, but we like to get your opinion on this. And if not Rumors, which one of the Fleetwood Mac albums from any era of the band do you believe is indeed a masterpiece? No right or
Yeah,
wrong
you're
answer.
so smart, you tell us.
There you
Yeah,
go. There you go.
Rumpf.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
that's
nice
it for now,
guy.
ladies and gentlemen. Please click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content that I have coming up on the channel. For Mo and Curly, I'm Armando signing off. Please look after yourselves and one another, and we will see you soon with episode 5 of Is This a Masterpiece? Take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you very soon. Bye for now.